Really, real, no, this is not for play. I see you and you see me, you wanna ride the wave. I can spot you from a mile away. Tap the gas and I'm gone, this is not a race. I just bought some racks in. I been, what's happening? It's just me, my guys, don't got no rap friends. You ain't see the front, but talking back ends. Oh, I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. Oh my God, 3 cars, 5 jobs, slam door, off the law. Shorty said she got the wap, I just want the wop. Posting money on the snap, that'll get you robbed. Nike, Nike tech, shot wet, 3 dice bet, head crack flags. This is not a question, I don't ever practice, never act in, always act in. Back in 2010, we were super activists.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm LaWanda.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Ron.
And today we are here to talk about the Godfather of Harlem. They had a small hiatus after episode 6, so we're finally glad to have them back on the air and, picking up right where they left off. So if you guys hang tight, we'll go ahead and get started with the recap.
One burnt you, know that ain't cool. Wanna show you how I'm nothing like him. Swear that's the truth. So you can't trust that I won't.
All right, everyone. So like I said, we are talking Godfather of Harlem. This is season 2, episode 7, and it was titled Man of the Year.
What a man. What a man.
Yes, and from everything that I could gauge, this episode was all about, people facing their truths, So everybody had kind of a moment where they were tired of hiding the secrets or had to be forced to expose what they really were.
Good point. I think I love the way Malcolm X said that Bumpy was a man of many contradictions.
Yeah.
And no truer a statement I would say has ever been said except that. And for him to win or rather to be honored as a member of the Linux establishment, community, and which I think involves, community-based programming, what you do for the community and so forth and so on. It's rather an oxymoron for Bumpy, because on the one hand, while he does do things for the community, he's also tearing it down. So interesting concept for this show.
Yeah, I mean, he had both Elise and Malcolm, put that on him this week. Like, you have to face who you really are, despite who you might pretend to be or who you want to project yourself to be. The truth is the truth, and just as much good you do just as much bad. So
sounds like Ghost hunting.
Yep.
Bumpy gets in a situation where he does the wrong thing for the right reasons.
Yes.
That makes sense. Well, it sounds good because that's about what he does.
Yeah, he does the wrong things for the right reasons. But I thought it was interesting too that when he's joining the organization and they're talking about character and integrity, then he starts to feel like he's gotten shaken down, right?
Because he's got to pay 6% more than he thought he would. So now, that's interesting. That's funny.
Like everybody has to hustle, right? I guess maybe it's just the unintended consequences. Maybe, they're in a situation where Bumpy has the money, it's fine. We can just get a little more, whereas more people seem to get hurt in Bumpy's line of work.
Yeah, it was interesting that the mention of Morgenthal's name is kind of what he was saying, was adding that little tax on to Bumpy's, regular rate. And so Bumpy's main reason for joining the Lenox Hill Society in the first place was to get access to, those bankers and politicians that could, help him finesse his situation. He was already very savvy, but, there's always a next level. And
he said he wanted to get influence and integrity and stuff. So he said, well, I see there's influence, but no integrity when they tax him.
And I don't know. I mean, is that a lot to pay for when you talk about the influence and he actually moving into another direction in terms of power? So is really 12% that harmful to him?
I doubt it. I mean, Bumpy seems like he's got it to spare, especially when he was, willing to have that lawyer on retainer a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
He just had that money ready to
Mhm.
go.
Yeah.
So Bumpy, he is not hurting for cash.
Wouldn't think so.
Yeah. And I don't
I
think
mean, what were you saying, LaWanda?
no, I was gonna say I don't think it's just Bumpy that has a lot of contradictions. It's society that has a lot of contradictions, because we see that, when we get to Chin, you'll see that he has these contradictions within his maid family and with his biological family, right? He presents himself to be a family member. He's a ruthless killer, So I think when you said that everybody has to face their truths, that's the truth, that we all have a lot of contradictions.
Good point.
And they even pointed that out about Elise. Of course, we know that she's had her struggle with her drug addiction, and it was pointed out, and I think by Bumpy it stung a little bit more, because that's coming from Dad. And so when he's telling you, well, you throwing my contradictions out there, but you acting like you're a saint. You're no saint. You were out here on drugs and prostituting. You don't even know who Margaret's father is. And so I'm pretty sure that stung at least, pretty bad.
That's a low blow.
She also had to face that truth too. I mean,
well, I think she has, though, and I thought that was and I thought that was a rather low blow for Bumpy, because he's now striking her with her past. And, she's cleaned up and she's trying to move forward. And Bumpy, tries to knock her back with that, what you used to be thing. I thought it was, though, rather selfish of Elise at that particular point in time, because, while I understand she sees herself as being clean and that she wants her daughter back, and that makes perfect sense. But what she wasn't understanding, or at least not seeing in my point of view, is that her daughter is in a, I want to say, quasi-stable situation with Bumpy and Mamie. She knows Bumpy and Mamie as mom and dad. And at that point in time, it just didn't seem like that would be fair to Margaret to pull out all the stops and say who your parents really are and who I really am, just because I want you and I want to raise you in the Muslim religion.
Right.
I just thought that would, Faith. I thought that was a little selfish for Elise, for Elise.
I mean, yeah, they all had their selfish reasons, because we know that Elise, that whole idea, she has been harping on it for a long time.
Yeah.
And after helping the lady that was on drugs, she helped her get clean, and the lady is also pregnant, and they were talking about how she wants to raise her daughter up in the Muslim faith as well, so that she doesn't make the same mistakes. And so I think that Elise was that was the final straw that had pushed her over the edge. I can understand you wanting that relationship with your daughter, despite your mistakes. The fact that she has really turned her whole lifestyle around is all the more reason why I could see her fighting for Margaret. But I thought it was a little bit manipulative of Mamie to share her story when she did. And it's not like her story was untrue, with her talking about her rape at 14 years old and her having to get the abortion, which left her barren. I mean, that's her story. But to lay that on Elise when she did, it's kind of like she had that tucked in her back pocket for a long time. And it's kind of like she was pulling at Elise's heartstrings, trying to make her see things her way.
Mm-hmm.
But it did give her some context.
Yeah.
It did give some context about why she couldn't have her own kids. Because Elise asked her, well, why don't you have your own kid? And that led her to let her know what was happening. And what happened to her was very personal. And, and for most people who have been violated by rape, it is very hard to speak about it and come forward about them circumstances. So I think I take your point about that, but I really feel like when I heard her say that, I knew right then that Elise wasn't going to move forward with taking the child. I knew it because it was just like when Mamie said, I cannot, if you take her from me, this will kill me. So I was glad that they came to a happy medium, that, okay, we're going to tell her the truth, but we're going to keep things as it is. and I'm still gonna be part of her life. And now she has 2 mommies. And Margaret actually took it way better than I thought she would.
She really did.
I thought she was gonna be devastated, but she really handled it in a really mature way.
I agree. And I guess the only reason I called it manipulation is because prior to that scene where her and Elise had that talk, she had the conversation with Bumpy, and she was like, we can cut her out of our life. This is it for her. And I'm like, okay, Mamie, that's a little bit much.
I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah,
she's ferocious.
Yes, it was. When I heard her say that, I said to my son, we were watching, I said, is Mamie gonna go over there and try to hurt Elise? Like she did come off like that. So I see it did come from a place like, oh no, then we can't. But
that came from a deep place in Mamie though, because if her story is true, and yeah, I can see the manipulation in it, but you would think that they might have had that conversation a long time ago with Elise. Because I think Elise wants the best for her daughter, and yet she wants to be a part of her daughter's life. Perfect. She, that is exactly the way that should happen. I'm glad though that it happened the way it did, because yes, Margaret has now 2 mommies that are good women for her to, to grow up with. And so I guess I'm going to be a little hypocritical about what I said earlier. I think telling her at that particular point in time in her life was a good thing, because she's young enough to see the earnestness in all of it, not having to blame one or the other. She's a child, and she's still, she's still quite innocent. So as a child, what she sees is a gain and not a loss. I think if you had waited, a couple of years later to tell her, we all get stained with societal situations and what we see and hear, as we get older. It might have tainted her a bit, and she might have resented Mamie for what actually happened. So I think it was a good move, when you stop to think about it. It's a good move maybe to tell her while she was still young.
But it was because they all got on the same page. And I think because the way that they presented to her, they were all together, right. It landed the blow for her. It softened it. Now, had they been fighting, and each person came and gave her their narrative and tried to control what she thought about the situation, I think it would have gone another way. But I think she was able to accept it because they sat down, had a loving talk with her, and she was able to receive it better. So, and I thank Bumpy for that, by him jumping on board too.
But do you think it would have happened the same way if she were, say, 16 or 17 and they did the same thing? But now she's 16, 17 years old, and they try to sit her down and do that same type of, thing.
She might have been more resentful, because she was like, why did y'all wait so long?
And those are rebellious years.
Yeah.
When you start, trying to gain your independence, and you think you know everything.
Yeah.
So,
but it helps for everybody to be on the board, because even in that situation, if you can go to each person and kind of play them against each other and get them to tell their own narrative, and she gave you away, and she took you, then they have these different stories, and then she can find an ally and pit them against each other. But I think because they were all on the same page, they're all telling the same story. She can receive it better, even if she was going through 16 and rebellious.
Yeah, I agree. And I love what Bumpy had to say though, when he was telling her about, keeping secrets not being a loving thing, even though he was trying to protect her, not being truthful was still doing more harm than good.
And ultimately, Margaret comes away with 3 people who love her.
Right.
So she's in a win-win situation all the way around.
I agree.
Yeah.
Would you say you love that? But I do too, because I think it's always the way we get to see the way Bumpy's family handles issues, the way Bumpy handles issues with his friends, and the way Chin handles issues with his friends.
That's a very good point.
Chin chooses violence
all the time. But in that scene with Malcolm and Bumpy, I thought that was such a real scene, because like, you are friends with somebody, and Malcolm didn't sugarcoat it. He came straight out with it and was like, you're contradicting yourself. And I appreciate that about somebody who calls themselves your real friend. because you should be able to come flat out with the truth and not be offended. And he came at him at the end and said, I truly love you. Like, I'm not coming from a place of malice with this, but the truth is the truth. The facts are the facts. So I appreciated their friendship even more, that they can have that disagreement and he still be able to tell him about himself, and then they still come out as friends.
But it's also contrary or contradictory as far as Malcolm is concerned too, because you're supposed to be this man of God, Allah, but yet you hanging with your bro, you know, Bumpy. You got this best friend who's a drug dealer, drug lord. So there's some contradiction in that as well, you know. So I like what you said at the very beginning, because it seemed like the whole series was met with everyone's version of the truth and what really lies within them all, because they all have this other side that had to be dealt with. So, you know, while he said what he said, and I thought it was exactly what Bumpy needed to hear, but come on now, be careful of your words, or at least make sure that that mirror goes back to you when you start looking and pointing at other people.
And don't think that Betty didn't see, you know, Betty was peeping game. Like when, you know, because Malcolm was caping hard for Elise. And Betty was peeping the scene too. She was like, you know, she's making the case as a mother for Mamie to Elise and everything. And Malcolm was co-signing.
He sure was.
She was peeping that because she already knows Elise is in love with Malcolm.
Yeah.
But Malcolm caping for her in front of Betty, he was countering everything, and she's looking at Malcolm like, I see you, bruh. I see you.
Bring that up.
I like that too. They made Betty a straight shooter too.
Oh yeah. I like Betty's strength, man. If I were Malcolm, I might have peeped that and kind of slowed down a bit, because you know, like you said, he was all over Elisa's point of view, and even telling Betty, I think you're missing the point. And Betty goes,
yeah, he did. I was like, woo! Malcolm's gonna be on the couch.
But you know what, you did mention Chin. Now he had a lot going on in his household too, and he even struggled with, you know, Stella's truth as she laid it out for him, because she finally confessed about the situation with Benny, how she and Ernie basically offed him, and Chin was like, he was in denial. He did not want to hear it. He was convinced that Bonanno had something to do with it. And I just thought that Stella, I think it's been eating her up, and she's tired of living like that. Like, when you have such a huge secret, and then she has all this anger and resentment built up in her, I think she's just over it. She's like, I'm just gonna come out with it.
do you think that she said that out of anger? Because to me, if I were Ernie, I would never trust another thing with Stella, because Stella is so wiry. You just don't know where she's going to go from one minute to the next. And to have a secret like that with Stella, you know,
he's in love with her.
Yeah,
like she has control.
She's got.
Do you see the way she kissed him before she sent them off?
And
she don't even like him like that.
Yeah.
And she kissed him, and he was like, all right, I'm out. I'm gonna listen.
But I was going to say too, when you start to think about family orientation, when you look at Chin and his family all over the place, but then you look at Bumpy, and you know, and how they want to call us savages, particularly back then. I mean, Bumpy has got his family in check. You know, they seem like a good, you know, strong link in the family ties. Whereas Chin, they're all over the place. I mean, who would shoot somebody in front of their daughter like that?
I don't think he had a choice at that point.
He didn't have a choice. He didn't have a choice because that guy, first of all, I thought Chin's mistake was, I thought once Stella told him what happened with Benny, that he should have gone and checked it out. He shouldn't have involved anybody else, because now you got another witness. And you heard what he was saying. He was like, no, you took an oath. You chose this family over your own family. Mm-hmm. So push came to shove. He might have tried to kill Stella. He might have told somebody else, and they might have killed Stella. So for her protection, he had to. Dude had to go. And like I said, that was Chin's fault because once he told him that, he should have gone and checked himself. He shouldn't have involved nobody.
But you think he had to go right then and there with a bullet in the head?
Well, he was not going to let it go. He probably would have started running his mouth too.
Yeah, because he was emphatic. He was like, Chin, like you took an oath. He was emphatic, and he wasn't gonna let it go. So
maybe he got that point. This is why Ernie had to do it, because once she shot him, I mean, Ernie didn't have any choice, because at that point it was either Benny or it was Stella, and he made a choice to save Stella.
Great point, Luanda, because I was wondering why Stella didn't give Chin more context to why they took Benny out. Exactly. She kind of just laid it out there and said, we did this, but she didn't say why Ernie had to defend her. She didn't even say Ernie defended her at all. She was like, oh, Ernie finished them off.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, she didn't get that no kind of context. You know, Chin is just thinking maybe they just went off on the loose cannon and just did something stupid. He doesn't understand the situation that led to Benny getting killed.
And they were gonna kill Ernie. And that's the thing. He just got made. I thought you couldn't kill a made man, but they weren't calling him over there just to talk. I don't care what they say.
Well, it must take,
they was ready to roll up on Ernie.
It must take 72 hours to be firmly made, because it was only 2 days for Ernie. But I think that if Stella had said something to Chin, and with what you said, you know, he saved my life by killing Benny, because Benny was going to kill me, then this whole thing might not have ever had to take place, because made or not, you can't kill Chin's daughter. As you know,
I thought that if you killed a made man, that made you fair game.
Yeah,
it does. But
it does. Because remember, that's why they were going after Bumpy.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what the Chin was like. He killed what's his name, but the head boss forgave Bumpy.
But
so that's why I think Ernie was fair game, because he killed a made man.
But a made man can't go after the head. Your boss's daughter, though. I mean, I don't see how
that's why they needed to say something. That part was key.
Exactly. I think that would have been the key part to keeping, dude from getting a bullet in the head, and they searching for Ernie. I mean, because he only did what he had to do at that particular point in time. What else?
That's why old boy had to go, because had he told the other bosses, all of the Chin would be on the table too. Him, Stella, that's why dude had to go.
And I thought it was funny how he laughed. Well, he didn't laugh, but he was kind of like, I think I made a mistake after he killed Gino.
Yeah, he killed that. He did make a mistake.
Chin's gonna have some trouble explaining that to the crew.
But listen, Stella didn't got a lot of people killed. That's one of the things I said to my son. I was like, that was like a lot of people have gotten killed behind Stella.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kept thinking about that. The other thing about that too is when you take out your right-hand man, the person is loyal, of course it's gonna cause a disruption in the crew, but then it's gonna mess up your organization too, because that was your right-hand man. That was the person you could trust with that secret.
Yes.
Well, to me,
that's why I said he should have done it himself. He should have gone and checked. That way he could have had the secret and it would have stayed there.
But the context, though, we've been talking about these episodes that have little context in terms of how you bring up a subject. And here we go again, not having the full context, somebody had to die. And that's unfortunate, but I agree with you, I guess dude had to go, but I just didn't realize, I thought maybe if Chin had cleared Stella out and talked to old boy and said, look, this is my daughter, and y'all not gonna put your hands on her. So I'm just saying.
You heard what he said. He said you took an oath.
His family above your own.
That family, he said, even God, that family is supposed to come first. So when he started reminding him of the oath and stuff, he had to go.
Blood oath at that.
Yeah. No, he's like, you know what this is.
Yeah, well, now he can go to God and try to explain to God why their bloodline is deeper than God, because he's gonna meet God. So, but hey, it's all about Stella. You might want to lock her up someplace again, because I just don't think Stella is ready for prime. Lock her up, take her out, do something with her.
Chin doesn't keep a cool head too.
No,
when things like this happen, He almost reminds me of Tommy on Power, but even Tommy, I think, has a cooler head than he does. It's almost like he goes into a panic. It's not so much that he reacts. It's almost like he panics and he can't think straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which
is why Bumpy always stays.
Yeah.
Why Bumpy always gets the best of him.
I think Tommy is smarter than Chen. And
Yeah.
I think that's what you know, what his problem is. He just doesn't have many brain cells up there, so he reacts very, very quickly.
So which begs the question: how did he get his position? Was it luck? Because it doesn't seem like it was intelligence. Because they
definitely said it was luck. I mean, they kind of brushed him off. Remember, they used to make fun of him because he was the chauffeur driver.
Right.
I think that his loyalty helped him gain, move up in ranks.
Exactly. He had no business being there other than the fact somebody threw him a bone. That's about the size of that.
Which is always the question of how is he gonna hold power being in that situation? I think that's why he always feels insecure, and that's why he reacts like he does, because even he knows that. And it's kind of making me look at Ernie, like Ernie is gonna come. Because I thought about this maybe last season that, what's gonna happen is Ernie is probably gonna end up being his son-in-law. Stella's gonna always have the upper hand, and then at some point they're probably gonna take him out.
Well, Chen is easy to manipulate like that. So I wouldn't put it past them to do something like that, because it does look like, Ernie might be wearing off on Stella now. She's starting to let her guard down a little bit more with him. So I don't see that out of the realm of possibilities.
It would be.
I said that before. I was like, she might be warming up to him.
Yeah, and then the way that Bonanno was able to get him on his side again this episode, it was kind of like, Chen just be blowing with the wind.
Well, Chen may not have any other choice now but to go back with Joe Bonanno, because it was interesting to me how he could just call him up and cuss him out like he did, and then call him back and say, "Oh, my bad."
Right.
And Joe says, "Oh, okay, no problem. Let's go and deal with Bumpy." And here he has this deal with Bumpy, and now he's trying to go back and trying to get back in good grace with Joe Bonanno. So I don't know what Chen's going to do, but we always said he was a loose cannon anyway. So I don't know what he's going to do.
And Bonanno doesn't really like Chen for real. So just imagine if Dude had gone and told Bonanno and the other family members. Chen would have really been in trouble.
And then them teaming back up, that is not really a good look, because Morgenthau is still hot on all of their tails. So it's not a good look.
But Bonanno said it was about the money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's long and short-sighted in that regard, about the money.
Yes. And talking of crew members and their loyalties, man, who would have thought Nat was out here snaking Bumpy?
He looked like he was sweating when they first brought it up. It's like, somebody stealing.
Yeah. It's funny though, and it goes back to this man-made theory. I guess because they were all ready to take Junie out.
That's why he spoke up.
Yeah,
that's why he spoke up.
Yeah, because his conscience got to him. But technically, what did Bumpy say to him? If any nigga steals some doogie, he's got to go, and that includes one of them. So
and $200K worth.
$200K.
That's a lot.
Yeah, over a gambling debt.
Yeah, come on.
And shout out to Miss Willow. Whoopi Goldberg making her appearance.
Yeah,
I was like, is that her?
And Marquand Smith, who's the creator and executive producer of this show, played Junie. So shout out to him as well.
Playing Junie Bird. And it was just like, it's crazy that that Chance, it seemed like Nat kind of had a sweet position where he could get to the drugs first and make the drop and kind of get away with it if he wanted to. So the fact that he chose to be honest, I'm really surprised. Well, actually, I'm still wondering if Chance is going to keep his mouth shut and for how long. because that's a tough spot to be in, where you're trying to protect somebody's life after they stole, especially. Versus
that's his
if Bumpy
man.
finds out that he knew and didn't say something.
And I started to say the only people that know are Whoopi, Chance, and what's the other friend? Nat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're really the only ones that kind of know right now. And one thing I like about Chance though, he's a real loyal dude. And I don't know if he really fully understood why Nat did it, but he knew Nat had a gambling problem. He tried to get him out of that gambling-ish thing. And I think, his camaraderie with Nat saved Nat's life, because he said, "You're a lucky or what." So, and he is lucky, because if it had been anybody else, he would have been,
Oh, I thought Chance was going to do him.
I did too, really.
I thought he was going to do a unique from Raising Cane.
Yeah, I'm still wondering if it might not be coming, because that was a big sin to commit against Bumpy. Like, you stealing from him.
And once you don't tell the truth and you know about it, you're complicit. So now they're both in trouble.
Exactly. And that's why I was like, I wonder if Bumpy is gonna call into question Chance's loyalty once he finds out what the situation is.
And listen, Chance already almost caused a war last time, because he broke the truce over his woman. He was supposed to leave town. He didn't leave town. So Chance he's already got a lot of chances. I'll say that.
Right, exactly.
So now he ain't take out Nat when he did. It's just, I don't know. This is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
If I were Nat, I think I would have waited a day or so, though, because they at least drove away and didn't kill Junie. And maybe he would have been able to talk to Chance and maybe try to convince him otherwise that Junie didn't have anything to do with it.
But I'm saying Junie almost got killed. So I
wonder if Junie says something to Bumpy, like, I don't know what's going on, but they rolled up on me talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. Well, somebody else, he might not know the truth of what happened, but he knows that there's stolen drugs.
I feel like Nat is the one we can't trust. So who's to say he won't blame it on Chance if he gets caught when it comes up?
Oh, that's true too. I hope he wouldn't, get that low with it, because they have all been kind of like a unit thus far. We always see them as a unit.
I don't see Bumpy ever killing Chance. I just don't see it under not.
How egregious it is for them to steal from Bumpy. They have no reason to steal from Bumpy.
Right.
But Chance is Bumpy's right arm. And I mean, I just don't see it though. I'm not saying he couldn't, but I don't see him killing Chance. Let's say if the tide is turned on Chance and that Nat blames Chance for the drugs, for the loss of it. I just don't see Bumpy killing. I just don't.
I don't know. Bumpy killed that guy that was his boy that was talking to the feds last season.
Yeah,
and
but
that man had been his friend for many years.
Yeah, but
and it hurt him to have to do it, but
he really
was a snitch.
He really needs Chance though. He needs. I mean, Chance. He needs, and to kill Chance, you are definitely at a disadvantage.
Because you would have to also kill Nat too. So then you lose two of your closest men.
Yeah.
I don't see that. Now Nat still needs to work. I just don't understand why he felt like he couldn't. Like, I know that he knew that he was gonna get an earful from them if he admitted to his gambling problems and that he was in the hole for 200K or whatever. But I would rather get an earful from my friend and borrow some money versus stealing it from Bumpy and put my life in danger.
Right.
True, but $250,000 is a significant amount of money now. It was an extremely large amount of money back then. Yeah. And so if you're Bumpy, you got to think this dude is putting my business at risk when he's carrying debt like that. So it's a problem. It's not a minor problem. So I could see why he might not say nothing to Bumpy, but why he didn't say anything to Chance, that's the other problem. And he chose to steal. It means he's disloyal. My grandmother would say, if a person will lie, they'll steal. If they steal, they'll kill. So he's problematic for me at this point.
Yeah. What I would expect Chance to do is take Nat out of that position, because, he's always going to have that that urge, that need to, he's not going to stop gambling just because of this situation. He may stop for a day or two, a week, but he's always going to go back to it. And the best thing you can do at this point is get him away from the drugs altogether. Give him another job, mopping and sweeping, something, but take him off the drug thing.
And I'm like, stealing from Bumpy is like, that's a huge no-no. But I know that he could have probably, you know how they have that distribution across multiple cities. I'm like, you could have snatched some off the top from somebody else's stash, but don't touch Bumpy's stash. I really questioned his thinking on that one, because it was just like, you have been Bumpy's right hand for a good little minute now. You've been there, you've witnessed, the razor blade come out. You've seen him slash some people up, and that didn't strike fear in your heart. So
yeah, right.
So let me ask this question. What do you think would have happened if Nat had gone to Bumpy earlier on and said, look, I got a gambling problem. I did X, Y, Z. I'm sorry, I'm going to pay you back. What do you think about that?
Bumpy's a reasonable man, but I think his reason has a limit. I think at that point he would have.
Because the money's gone. I mean, you can't do anything about it.
No, the conversation is before that, before you take the money.
Right.
Well,
right.
He can't hear you after you steal the money.
I don't.
Right.
I just don't know if Bumpy's that cold-blooded. I guess.
What? You don't think? No. I do.
But that's not cold-blooded. That's not cold-blooded.
Well, I mean,
that's the rules of the game.
Yeah, but there are two ways of taking money like that. You could take it he took it for his own personal gain, true. But it wasn't that he was trying to build his own cartel and he took the money in that regard. He took the money because he was in trouble.
Lost the money, he had to pay the debt. Yeah, he didn't have it, and that's why he stole it.
Now, and I'm saying because of that, could Bumpy give him a release?
I don't think so. I mean, we talking about the loyalties of Cruz. We just talked about how Chin had to off somebody really close to him, over a family dispute. Now Bumpy on the same side. It's like, it's the same thing. There's no room for your emotions and your feelings in this game, because that's like one of the weaknesses we keep talking about, how drug dealers have like that Achilles heel where, anybody can find your weakness, it's over for you. And so if anybody was to learn that somebody in your crew stole from you and you allowed it, what does that make Bumpy look like?
Yeah, and it's just the same reason that if somebody gets convicted of a financial crime, you can't go work for a bank. Well,
that's why I said take them away from the money issue altogether. I mean, as far as I would be concerned, he would never have anything to do with money or drugs. But
the nature of being in an illegal business, and the reason loyalty is so important is because when you have a weakness like gambling, those are the people that the feds tend to use.
Target, right?
Yes. They prey on that weakness. They prey on that desperation. And so that's why you would have people, what's the number one rule? You don't get high off your own supply, and you don't steal the money. Mm-hmm. Because that's leverage for anybody to use against you, whether it be you going to the person you owe money that wants to end on the organization, or the Fed or anything like that.
I got it.
So
I got it. But he gave Chance, what did he tell Chance to do? Get out of town. He could have killed Chance for what he did. Mm-hmm. He could have wiped him out for what he did, because he could have started a major war at the time that he was trying to do business. And Chance,
but he understood Chance's situation. It was different. It was self-defense too, because they were in Bumpy's joint, and Chin's people violated.
I agree.
And stuff. So he kind of put Chance in a no-win situation. So that's why he understood Chance's. This situation with Nat is totally different. Like, that is self-inflicted. Like, you a gambling debt, and then you still. Especially because you heard Chance. Chance was like, man, I told you to leave that alone and stuff. So he didn't listen.
But now Chance, but see, if Chance doesn't go back and say something to Bumpy, he's now complicit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's why I said it's a tough spot to be in. And to LaWanda's point about, the weaknesses and somebody sniffing it out, we know Morgenthau still hot on Bumpy's trail too. So all it takes is for Morgenthau to figure out this situation that Nat is in, offer him some money for some information, and boom, Bumpy's plot is blown up. So it's like you don't have room for those kind of mistakes. And I think that Chance not saying something is gonna maybe do more harm than good.
Well, I guess they have hearts after all, because what Chance had two things he could have done. He could have done what he did or blew his head off, because the law of the land is, if you steal from me, you die. So, now that he's complicit, how long or how he's able to handle that, time will tell.
Yeah, that's a rough one. I like Nat's character too. Up until now, I didn't see this coming. This came out of left field.
But Nat was the one that was like, Uni's got
right.
Nat, why?
That's why he put up a good front too.
He sure did. I mean, I'm like, man, you need to chill on that, because you're the one.
I'm like, is he doing the drugs too? Is that what made him steal? Because you got to be on something to steal from Bumpy.
Something.
Yeah. His logic was that he was gonna put it back. He thought that he would put it back before they can find out. But yeah.
Betting on a horse.
Sound good.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed this episode a whole lot. I like how it ended with Bumpy not even showing up to his Man of the Year award. And so I was like, he was so over them people after they tried to extort him. He was like, I'm over y'all. So,
and plus I think too, the contradictions, I think he was reminded of his own, those contradictions that Malcolm reminded him of, that Elise reminded him of, and he probably, his conscience probably wouldn't allow him to go accept an award for Man of the Year.
Yeah, you can't buy character, you can't buy integrity. What endears him to people is the kindness that he shows. That's genuine. I think that's genuine on Bumpy's behalf too. And so the people love him for that, and I think he realized that's enough.
Yeah. So I wonder how it's going to affect him going forward though, because he's kind of like in this mode now where he's facing his contradictory lifestyle. Now, does he continue on, and does that the conscience have any bearing on how he moves forward now? That remains to be seen. How long this is going to last.
I don't know. You can't, it's hard to be a leader in your community and a drug dealer at the same time. So it's going to be interesting how he tries to balance those two things. And now that he's with that, Lenox Hill group. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he tries to balance that.
Yes. Do you guys have any other predictions for the remaining 3 episodes, I believe? If they're going to episode 10, that means we only have 3 left. So
I wonder if Stella is going to make it out of this season alive.
She has every reason to be taken out at this point.
Yeah, or if she doesn't do it herself, but I feel like I feel like her days are numbered.
I think they're numbered, but I think she's going to off herself. I can't see anybody else really killing, but she's just so unstable. Yeah, I can see her offing herself.
Yeah, it was interesting to me that Chin had gone in the confessional, and he was asking about Stella, is she going, does her committing this sin mean she's going to hell and stuff like that? So I was like, the fatherly side came out. He's worried about her eternal resting place, if something, if it comes to
her
that.
Salvation.
Yeah. He's worried about his own, grabbing that father and trying to kill him.
But that's his brother, though.
Who is his brother? Yeah,
that's his brother.
That's his brother.
Right. I mean, come on. But hey, I guess he really loves his daughter. So that's why I don't think any harm would come to her outside of the organization, or in the organization, I should say. I think that if there's any harm to be done, she's going to do it to herself.
And that would tear him up.
No,
oh my goodness.
And and she knows that.
Wow. Yeah. So I guess we'll have to wait until next week to figure out what happens, and if Chin will show Ernie any mercy Now that Gino's out the picture, nobody really knows what went down. So, I mean,
I think
let it
they're
slide.
gonna go back and square the books with Whoopi, and I think they're gonna hide it. That's all they can do.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just waiting for the moment Bumpy finds out. I want to see what that looks like.
Well,
so I hope we get to see that soon. All right, well, if you guys don't have anything else to add, I think we'll end it here. Thank everyone for watching. Please drop down in the comments and let us know what you thought about this episode and give us your predictions as well. Be sure to also click the like button and also subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so that you're alerted every time we post a video. We're also on the at the Spot Real Talk on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, so follow us there. Guys, got any last words?
good.
No? All right, well, we'll see you guys next week when we come back to recap episode 8 of Godfather of Harlem. Until then, we'll call it a night. Thanks for watching. Bye. Bye.
Yeah, what's up with it? Do it cause I love it and I stuck with it. We ain't with the subbing in the cut with it. Please none of the talks, I heard enough of it. Like, what you gonna do? Where you at? Who you with? You ain't really about this, don't talk about it. Really on the move, on the map, never slip. Keep your hands to your lips, don't talk about it. Real eyes, real lives all the time. Stand on it, if we said it, we don't walk around it. Loose lips, sink ships, red cup, blue strips, new phone, who this? No, we don't allow it. Really on go, I don't know what's an off day. Now we on road, came from smoking in the hallway. Now we got